So in this exercise, we're going to work on the fisheye dart, also known as a double-ended dart. These darts are usually used on dresses that don't have a waistline, and the dart actually controls the fit from the bust to the waistline and then also to the hip. So I don't have any notches on this pattern piece, but what I do is I have a lot of drill holes. So you'll notice that I have a drill hole at the beginning and the end of the dart. And then I also have another one in the middle. A lot of times you won't necessarily see this drill hole on patterns in the industry, but sometimes you may, and I wanted to give you a little bit more guidance on how to visualize this. I've also kept the diamond shape here because basically we're going to be sewing a soft diamond shape. So again, I have drill holes at the beginning and the end of the dart, plus one here in the center. And then I have another one offset of that center right here at the side. And this indicates the total width of the dart. So what's going to happen is, just like the straight darts, we're going to begin and end about a ½ inch beyond the drill holes here. And then here on this side drill hole at the center, we're going to actually sew around this drill hole about 1/8 of an inch away. So what happens is these three darts here, these three drill holes here are actually going to be the fold line of our dart. I'm not going to fold the pattern because we need to actually punch these. And then what we're going to see once we get to the fabric, we'll have another drill hole that actually guides us around the width of that dart. So let's go ahead and punch these out. And again, in the industry, you're not going to actually see the diamond shaped drawn on. All you're going to have is drill holes. And if you're a pattern maker, you're only going to give the drill holes. You'll need to know from your sewers how they like to see those drill holes and what side. Now I've built these so that when we put these in the machine, we're seeing these actually on the left side, or if you want to flip it, you can put it on the right side. So now that I have my drill holes punched, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the fabric. Okay, so now that we've got everything cut out and I've got my drill holes all marked, I went back over and just re-marked all of my drill holes so that I could see them. You could also have used your awl to actually punch holes. If you punch holes, make sure that you're actually sewing around them. Otherwise, you're going to get some fraying after you sew your darts. So now, just to help you, I'm going to draw those lines. Now remember that we're going to begin and end 1/2 inch from the top and the bottom drill hole. So I'm just going to mark where that is, and I'm going to draw a line lightly. Now, this is good for beginners so you can actually visualize where you're going to be sewing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark where's my 1/8 inch away from that drill hole, and then I will just kind of draw to that point here and then to here. Now what I'm drawing is the sewing line. So you'll start sewing here and then kind of curve around instead of stopping and pivoting. If we stop and pivot, we're going to have a point in our garment. So what we want to do is we want to sew and then just smooth around that edge and then come back and end here at the bottom of the dart. So now I've only done one side, so that means that I'm going to be folding this in half again, right on those three drill marks that line up. That's your fold line. And then we'll start sewing here again, softly around the width and then back to finish. Now, I know that there are only two on here. What I would suggest is maybe if you need help visualizing and you've drawn these lines, to do one with drawn lines, and then cut another one and draw and sew it without the lines, so you know that you can actually follow these drill holes. All right, so let's actually look at the finished product. So this is actually what we're going to be doing. So you can see here I have the folded line, and I've started and then I've smoothed around the total width and then come back to finish. And then this is the wrong side because there are no markings, and on this side I have the markings. So as you can see, I have a fullness at the top and the bottom, and then I have a smaller size here in the middle. It's holding the size. So this would be compared to like a waist, and then down here would be a hip, and then maybe the bust. So this would actually, it makes actually a nice style line. So this is what we're going for. So let's actually mark our face side, which is the opposite side of our drill marks. All right, and so now we're ready to go over to the machine and sew this. Okay, so we're ready to sew our fisheye dart, or we can also call it a double-ended dart. And if you saw the dart sewing demo, you notice the last dart that I did, I started at the end and sewed up. And so this is similar to that, except we have two ends. So we're going to start here, and this first one we drew all our lines, and the second one we're going to do without the lines. So for this one, again, we have the 3 drill holes that identify the straight line. That's the center of the dart. And so what's going to happen is, just like the other darts, I'm going to start up here. If we're going to start up at this one, I'm going to start a 1/2 inch beyond that. I'm going to sew down. We have this other, the width dart. We're going to sew around that drill hole. And then we're going to sew back down, passing the end of the drill hole for the end, a 1/2 inch past that right here. So let's put this in here just like we did for the regular dart. And I'm going to put the needle again right there, right here on the very edge of the fabric, maybe catching 1 or 2 yarns. Okay, so when you look at it here, you'll probably have to lift your presser foot all the way up so that you can see where the needle is going into the fabric, right? To make sure that you're getting just right there on the very edge of your folded fabric. Okay, now when you start, you're just going to do a stitch or 2 right on that edge of the fabric, and then you'll angle your fabric to the direction of the drill hole that identifies the width of the dart. So I'm going to take a couple of stitches. And now I can start angling my fabric to this drill hole on the line that I've kind of drawn. So I'm going to stop right here for just a sec, because we can still see this drill hole here. And what we want to do, even though it looks like a point that I drew where we would actually put our needle down and pivot, we don't want to pivot because we don't want a harsh crease there. We don't want a harsh angle on the fabric. What we're going to do is we're just going to smooth around in a nice smooth curve right around that drill hole so that we get a nice soft shape. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go slow, and I'm just going to curve right around. You see I did that. I curved right around where the width of the dart was. Now we're coming up to the end, and again I'm going to end here again with a couple of stitches right on that curve, right on the fold of that fabric. So coming up to the end, passing that drill hole, and then I'm just going to turn my fabric where I need to end, so it's right there on the edge of that edge, and I did an extra couple stitches there. And now I can take this out and leave a length of fabric when you clip it, because what we're going to do, just like we did with the other darts, we'll go ahead and tie knots in these. So here's the finished dart stitching. Okay, it's a nice smooth curve right here instead of looking like it's a point that we turned. Okay, so now all I need to do is I'm going to actually tie knots in the thread here, and then I'll clip off the extra. Okay. Okay, so there's our dart, and if we open it up, we can have a look. You can't really see it in the camera the way it is, but it comes in and it creases here. And once we get to the pressing of this, you'll be able to see it better. But these darts again are great for dresses without a waistline seam, or maybe a long shirt where you want the waist to be defined. Okay, so that one we did with all the markings. We drew our stitching line. This other, we're going to challenge ourselves to do it without those stitching lines. Remember, these 3 dots here, the 3 vertical ones, that's the center of our dart. That's where we fold the fabric. And then this other drill hole is for the width of the dart, and we're going to sew around that. But we're going to sew from the top here, around, and then down. Now, remember, when we start, we're going to actually start about a 1/2 inch above this drill hole, and then we'll end a 1/2 inch below this drill hole. So start using your eye, learn what a 1/2 inch looks like. I'm not going to mark it, so I'm just going to come up here a little bit, and that's about where I will put the needle down. Again, lift the presser foot all the way up so you can kind of eye under the presser foot where that needle is going to go in. Okay, I feel good with that. I'm going to take a couple stitches right on the fold of that fabric. And now I can start angling that fabric towards my width drill hole. Now we're not going to the drill hole, remember, we're going to stitch around it. If this is the drill hole here, then remember we're coming 1/8 of an inch away from that drill hole to stitch around that drill hole. So that's what I'm aiming. My eye is actually here a little bit away from that drill hole. And I'm coming to the drill hole, and I'm going to get ready to just sew right around it in a nice curving motion. And now I'm on the other side of that dart, and now I'm going to eye about a 1/2 inch below where I need to stop, and that's my angle that I'm taking now. And I'm coming up to my eye spot, and I'm going to, very careful, get right on the edge of that fabric, and then just take a stitch or 2 right on that folded edge. And then I will leave a good length. It's easier if you have a little bit more to tie that knot with. So there's the finished dart. It looks just like the other one. And now I'm going to tie off these threads. So my suggestion would be, if you're not ready to do it without the stitch line yet, do one of these, do one sample with your stitch line, and then when you feel comfortable with that, do another sample without your stitch lines. All right. So tying off these ends will kind of ensure that you won't lose any thread if they pull out. So those are our darts, our fisheye or double-ended darts sewn. Let's check them out over at the pressing mat. Okay, so for pressing the fisheye or double-ended darts, you'll want to fold it flat. Fold the dart in half, and then press the dart area. Press over those stitches from the top to the bottom of the dart, just to set those stitches in. And then when you look at the fisheye darts on the inside, you'll have to decide which way you want to press them. Now, if this were a dress, the darts would actually press toward the center front and the center back. But in this case, I'm just going to press them away from each other so we have a good view of what they are. And I'm coming in from the bottom or the top to the point of the dart, to the dart point, and then just kind of pressing away to the center of the length of the dart from either side. And that's just so that I can actually press the curve or the shape into the fabric.